Sorry about that. I just realized my mic was not on. So anyway, let me start that all over. Happy 3rd of July, everybody. Uh, I apologize again for switching the date, but I didn't figure any of you guys would want to get on here on the 4th of July, including me. So anyway, welcome to the call. There's some new people. We've got some new signups, so welcome aboard for anybody new, whether you're watching live or coming in on the replay. But anyway, I was just talking about my, a lot of people have asked about my vacation. Many of you know I just got back from Tahiti. We spent our 30th anniversary in Bora Bora. And, you know, I've been to Hawaii a number of times over the years, and my big takeaway from visiting Tahiti for the first time is I'll probably never go back to Hawaii again. It's that much better. You know, it's 2 hours, and that's 2 hours extra from there. Hey, can you guys hear me? We got a couple of people saying they can't hear me, and let me know. Okay, so we're on. Good. All right, awesome. Cool. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't talking to myself there. So, all right, so anyway, back to our call. As you guys know, this call is open for anything you need, wherever you're at. Even if you're just starting out, there are no bad questions here. And it is an open call. I talk about different topics, things I'm doing, things I think might help you either now or along your path when you get to that certain point. So feel free anytime if you're like stuck on something or you just don't know how to get started, just, you know, hop right out. Just, you know, wave at me or put your, I think there's a thing in here you can raise your hand or just, you know, shout out at me, unmute yourself and just shout out, no problem. So that said, one of the things I wanted to share with you guys is I've been using they call them apprentices through the Gen M system. And I just started using it right before vacation, so I hadn't really gotten into it yet. But when I got back, I started getting in there and messaging the open apprentices, and they're really kind of like interns. It's people that are going through school to learn marketing, and they're looking for hands-on experience. So you can get access to these people for you can sign them up for an apprenticeship with you. And the deal is it's kind of a mutual beneficial thing. You teach them something that you know, and then they will do work in your business for you. So it's really kind of cool. If you need hands-on people, you know, doing work because you don't have time for it, it's a pretty cool thing. And the other thing, you can actually use this training. You can use the ACT marketing protocol training to train them to do this stuff for you. So that's a really cool thing. That's a very powerful concept because I know a lot of you guys are in here and it's tough because of time. You know, time is the big challenge for a lot of us. We know all the stuff we need to do, and sometimes we don't know what we need to do, but either way, we know we just don't have time for it one way or another. So nothing winds up getting done. So the cool thing, like I said, if you can tap into these Gen M people for their interns and use my training to train them to work in your business, it's like a full win-win for everybody. And the only thing you have to do with them, like I said, you have to give them support and training, which my system will do for you. And then you have to rate them like on a weekly basis. You rate their work, you rate their quality of communication, all that, so the company can know. And then at the end of the 90 days, you basically give them a review that they can use in trying to get a job. So it really helps them. They also get a certification that they've completed an internship. So it helps them with job experience and getting placed in good jobs. So it's really a cool thing. I totally dig it. And there's a ton of people in there. I think there's like 8,000. When I ran my first search, there was like 8,000 interns for it. So really cool stuff. And I have a link. Gwen was asking for a link. I put a link up in the members area in the resource section for you guys to that for the interns. Really cool. It does cost. It's like a membership. It's kind of like the onlinejobs.ph that I've told you guys about in the past, is where I hire my Filipino employees. So it's like a repository. And you can get free access. You have to pay for the first 90 days of the service. And I don't remember what it was. It wasn't that much. And then you can actually get a free lifetime access to it if you get other people to join. So they have a built-in affiliate program. Once you sign up, you'll get a link for it. That's my link. So when I give you my link, if you guys sign up, I think if 10 of you sign up, I think I've already got 8 people signed up, I will wind up getting free access for life, and you can get the same thing. Because you'll want to share this with people that you know. It's a really awesome service. So cool stuff. It's called Gen M, and you can get that link in the members area. So I would recommend you do that. Go into resources. It's on the resources tab. So anyway, one of the things when you're hiring somebody, I want to talk about that. If you're hiring somebody to help you in your business, whether it's through an internship, or you're hiring people in the Philippines, or you're hiring any kind of a VA, any of that kind of stuff, I've used a process over the years that has been very successful for me. And before I started using that process, it was an absolute disaster, as you guys may have already encountered. Hiring somebody, that's overseas, and the communication and all that can be an absolute nightmare. And one of the things I did was I put them through kind of a vetting process before I hired them. And I never hired them right out of the gate. I would give them a temporary thing. They would have like a trial period. And during the trial period, I would test their abilities to see the level of what they could output, so I knew what to expect out of them after I hired them. So like if they would put out a certain amount in the first 2 weeks in their trial period, and then I hire them and their productivity goes below that, I know I got a problem. Either they cheated on the first 2 weeks, or they're just not putting in the effort, and that's not somebody I want on my team. So that's one thing that I did. The other thing I did, part of the vetting process, was the way I would actually engage them on onlinejobs.ph site. What I would do, I would go through and I would look for the skill sets that I was interested in. And I would basically collect, almost like creating a database of people, and then I would do like a mass communication with them. And I would basically send them all an invite. I would say there's an opportunity for a job opening that's coming up, and I'm interviewing people. And if you would like to participate in the interview process, please, private message me back, and I'll send you the application form. So what I was looking for when I did that, I was looking for response time. If somebody did not get back to me within 24 hours, they were out. Because I don't want somebody that's not checking their computer on a regular basis. I don't want somebody that's just a dabbler. I want somebody that is heavily engaged online. So that's the first criteria. If they did not respond within 24 hours, they were out of the running. And I would always do it like during the week, during normal hours. So I wouldn't, try and do that on the weekend. But again, that's first thing. First check off the box. They've got to be attentive. The next thing is when they respond back that they want the application, I would immediately send it back to them and ask them to fill out a questionnaire. The questionnaire had a rating system. It had like a list. It was a checkbox for them to check off what they knew how to do. And then next to it, like they would say, I would put Photoshop. I would put WordPress. I would put Google Analytics. I would list off all these different things. Whether I needed them or not, I would list off everything I could think of. And I would have them check off if they had experience in that. And then right next to it, they had to put a number in, a number of 0 to 5. And basically I had a scoring system. 0 is you don't know anything about it, you may never have heard of it. And a 5 is you know enough about it, you could probably teach me a thing or two about it. So that was one of the things. So they would rate themselves on all these different skill levels, and then they would send that back to me. And again, I'm looking for how long does it take them to send this back, looking for that time delay. If they take more than 24 hours to send that application back, again, done, they're out. Once I get that back, I look at it, and one of the questions on there is how's your English skills, both speaking and writing. And if they put a 5 in the speaking, then what I would immediately do is I would immediately pull them up with a chat so I could talk to them. And if I find out they're lying, what I'm doing, I'm looking to see if they're honest at this point. Honesty is a huge key to a Filipino employee. So if they put 5 down on speaking English and they can't speak English, guess what? They just lost. If they put a 5 down on writing, then I immediately send them back and I say, could you send me a couple of paragraphs on why you think you would be good for this job? And then I'm going to see their writing skills. Again, I'm trying to get them to basically reveal their honesty. And then the other thing I'll do is I'll follow up with a secondary questionnaire that questions them based on their answers. And I'm looking for discrepancies. So that's kind of, it sounds like a brutal process, but I got to tell you, if you get a bad one, that's worse. If you get one of these guys that's good, they can literally be with you for years, if not forever. And they're really good people. If you find an honest one, they work hard, they're very inexpensive, and if you treat them right, they're very, very loyal. There's some things about working with people in the Philippines. They have holidays you have to honor. One of the holidays that's a big one for them is their mother's birthday. You need to figure out what their mother's birthday is, and you give them that day off. If you do that, they will love you forever because they literally go spend that day with their mother. And if they have to work, they have a little bit of resentment. So it's just, you have to know that. You have to understand their culture. But again, you get one of these guys that's honest and hardworking, and they're very loyal, and they'll stay with you forever. So that's kind of the key. A lot of people have asked me over the years, how do I find good overseas employees? That's how I do it. I find out, I pay them more than they ask for, because they don't ask for much. Sometimes you'll find they'll want, $250 to $300 a month for full time. So if I get somebody that wants $300, I give them $400. $400 a month for a full-time employee, that's nothing. Makes them very happy. But again, you don't want to hire them right out of the gate. You give them that 2-week period, and you test them very rigorously during that 2 weeks. And if they're responsive, they're honest, they're hardworking, that's probably everything you're looking for. So at that point, and again, you want to document that first couple of weeks of their output. Like if you're having them do, data entry, if you're having them do article creation, if you're having them do research projects, you want to document the volume of work during that first 2 weeks, because they're never going to work harder than they are in that first 2 weeks because they're trying to get the job. But that will tell you their capabilities. And then if you need that kind of capability later on, it's there. And if they don't put out for it, then, you can have a conversation about that. You got documentation to back it all up. So anyway, so that's a good portion about, how to get outsourcers and VAs and all that. And I know a lot of people are looking for that. Again, if you guys have questions, I am good going any direction that you need me to go. So just let me know, if there's stuff that you're particularly interested in, or I can just keep going on stuff I think is most important for you all to know and focus on. All right. So I think probably here's a big one, and I cover this a lot, but it's worth going over because we've got some new people on the call, and it's the process. It's where do you start? And I see so many people starting in the wrong place, and it winds up costing them. It costs them time, money, and everything else, energy, uh, loss of motivation, everything. And that getting out of sequence is what I'm talking about. When you guys you start creating videos, you start creating websites, you start creating ads, anything that you start creating, if you have not done your analysis piece first, you are wasting your time. There's no other way to put it. You're shooting yourself in the foot. And if you don't do it right the first time, it's like it's almost a cliche. If you can't find time to do it right the first time, you're going to make time to do it right the second time. I don't like doing things twice. I prefer to do them once and move on to a new thing and do that. So getting out of sequence, and the sequence is, the whole ACT marketing protocol, it's ACT for a reason. It's analysis, then creation, then traffic. I see a lot of people, oftentimes when I talk to an entrepreneur or a business owner, whether they're new or existing, they always tell me they want traffic, they want SEO, they want a ton of people on their website. They're in the traffic mode. That's the T part of ACT. And I'm like, whoa, 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 hold your horses. If we put the traffic there, is it going to convert? Because if it doesn't convert, it doesn't matter. It's a waste of time and money. So again, out of sequence. Whenever I consult for business, I can generally find a problem in one of three buckets. It's either the analysis part, which is the market. We can kind of break that down into the market. They have a market issue, which probably means they haven't segmented, so they don't know their avatar, they don't understand their needs. That I'll consider a market issue. That's analysis. That's the A of ACT. Next is creation. This is messaging. Everything in creation falls under messaging. So they can have a problem in the market bucket, they can have a problem in the message bucket, or they can have a problem in the traffic bucket. Very rare do I find the problem in the traffic bucket. I mean, sometimes they just don't have traffic. That's not really a problem. You can buy traffic anytime you want. Traffic is easy. It's the conversion part. If you start buying traffic, I say it's easy, and it is, but it doesn't mean it's profitable. And that can be painful. So if you're in, let's say you're out of sequence and you're in the traffic mode and you haven't got your messaging right, or you haven't figured out your market, you don't have those two pieces right, and you start paying and buying traffic, it's going to be really expensive. And it's probably going to break you. So nobody wants that. Nobody wants expense without profit. We're all in business for one reason. We buy things at a price and we sell them at hopefully a higher price. Whether that's your time or whatever, but there's a cost to everything. If you're selling your time, you're doing a service business, you're selling something at a price. Your cost, your time is a price. That's a value. If you're selling a widget, there's a cost to the widget. And then there's a price of what you can sell it for. So that's business. I mean, business ABCs is about moving merchandise, whether it's time or items. So you guys really need to get a handle on that. That's another thing. You need to know your numbers. Because when you get into traffic, like I said, it's easy to buy traffic. But you've got to know your numbers so you know how much you can spend on your traffic. And here's another thing. It's a little off the topic, but it's very relevant and it's very key to a lot of your success. And it comes down to knowing your numbers. When I say you got to know your numbers, I'm very serious. That will make you or break you. And there's several numbers that you need to know. You need to know what's the cost of making a sale, like your conversion numbers. How many people is it going to take for you to get a sale? How many people have to land on your landing page, read your copy, watch your video, go through your marketing process to actually convert a sale? What's that number? What's that conversion number? And then you have to know, how much does it cost to get each one of those people to do that? You know, if you've got a 3% conversion, that means for every 100 people that land on your sequence, 3 are going to buy. So if it costs you $1 a piece, you have $100 cost to put 100 people in your process, and 3 of them are going to buy. So if you have a $33 profit on that sale, that's break even. You know, none of us want to break even, but I'm going to show you how you can actually lose money on the first sale and make a massive amount of money in the back end. So knowing your numbers of what's your lifetime value of your customer is probably the most important thing that I could tell you. It's not how much you make on the first sale. It's how long will they be with you and how much will they spend during that time frame. Like if you have a process, most people have something that they will sell first to get people into their system. And then once they buy that and they consume that, it creates a new need. Like in the analysis part, we have a thing called the timeline. And this is understanding your ideal client. This is where your avatar comes in. First part of analysis is segmentation, to figure out, you know, what's the most profitable segment of my audience? Because you can't focus on everybody. You don't want to focus on everybody. Focus on the most profitable segment. Figure out in that segment, who is the person, who's the ideal customer in the segment, and then it's really easy to figure out their language, because now you know who you're talking to and you know why you're talking to them. So one of the first things that you do in figuring out that messaging is the timeline. And the timeline, basically the questions in the timeline that you have to answer is, where is the person currently? That's the beginning of their timeline. And then based on their problem or their, you know, the thing that you provide that gives them transformation or solves their problem, that's the timeline of transformation. What's the end of the timeline look like? Like if they buy your product or your service, what's it going to do for them? Is it going to take them from where they are to where they want to be? If it is, you have a perfect match. That will be very easy to sell and very easy to create the conversation to sell it. So the timeline piece of this process is really, really important. Understanding where they are, what they want, and how to get them there, and how to position you or your product as the delivery mechanism to deliver that transformation. If you get that, I guarantee you, you'll have a foundation for a marketing campaign that won't miss. And if you don't get that right, your odds of getting your marketing campaign to work is pretty slim. It's pretty far out there. So that's really important.
John, can I ask a question?
Sure, absolutely.
So how do you begin to really identify those individuals?
Well, the first part of that is segmentation of your market. Like most everybody has a pretty wide market, you know, and in some cases you could say it's everyone on the planet, right? But that's not true. You want the segment of the market that's most profitable. So you always want to segment it. Like I use water as an example in a lot of my trainings. Everybody on the planet drinks water, right? Bottled water, you know, these things right here, bottles of water. Now, you can segment out the people that buy that water into segments. And I picked 3 segments as an example. There are people that will buy a particular product because it's green and it helps the environment, right? That's a segment. There's another segment that will buy the water because they want performance. They're athletes and they want a competitive edge. And the other segment is people that will buy the water for health reasons. Perhaps they're dying. They have serious issues and water has become a problem in their life. And they need better water if they want to live. So of those 3 examples, which one do you think is the most profitable? Who will pay the most for that water? It's the person that's dying. If the water will give them an extra week of life, what will they pay for it? Is it worth a $20 bill for a bottle of water? All day long and twice on Sunday. You know, when you go to the green guy, when you tell him the bottle of water is $20, all of a sudden he doesn't give a rat's ass about the earth. He ain't buying the water for 20 bucks. So that's what I'm talking about. You got to find the profitable segment. Who will spend the most for the same product? And every market has these segments. You know, like in the real estate market, there's some of you guys in real estate. In real estate, there's a lot of segments. There's two major, huge buckets. It's buyers and sellers. They speak a completely different language. You know, the buyer wants a good deal. The seller wants max value. What do you think happens to the buyer when you start talking about max value? They're like, oh, hell no, I'm not working with that guy. You know, and what do you think happens to the seller when you start talking about bargain basement deals? He's like, oh no, that's not the realtor for me. And at the end of the day, because he spoke that middle of the road messaging, he killed himself. He threw all of his prospects off the cliff on both sides, and nobody's following him at the end of the day. So back to the segmentation for the realtor, buyer, seller, right? Now, because you've segmented them, you have to segment them again. Like, let's say we take the buyer. Okay, we know it's a buyer, but that's all we know. We need to know a little bit more to create messaging. Is this a single mother looking to get by, just to keep a roof over her head? Is this a growing family that's expanding and needs a bigger house? You know, maybe they want to move to the country and create a better lifestyle. Or is this a bachelor? You know, is he looking for a bachelor pad? Do you think that's three different conversations? That's where your messaging comes in. That's why it's so important. It is so, so important that you get the segment first. You create the avatar out of the segment and focus on the most profitable ones first. And then in your analysis process, once you've identified that segment, now you can create your avatar. If you don't figure out the segmentation, your avatar is going to be generic and it's not going to work. You know, in marketing, a lot of people talk avatar, but they don't tell you how to get there. You know, that they just figure, you know, pick your favorite person to work with. It doesn't mean they're the most profitable one. So, you know, let's look at it the way an ad agency does it. An ad agency, you know, they cost a tremendous amount of money, but the reason they do is they work. So let's see. Okay, so Tammy asked, what do I mean by avatar? An avatar is simply a representation of your ideal customer. So being the ideal customer needs to come out of that most profitable segment, or at least a profitable segment. Like as in the real estate example, the bachelor pad might be very profitable, so might the growing family. Those two might be totally, you know, equal in profitability, but it's a different funnel, it's a different message, and you need to create them each individually. So the faster you can segment your customers into these buckets so you can speak the right language, the better off your ad campaign will be, your marketing campaign. And I'll bring this back to real life. You know, the way I know this is online does not work any different than this has worked in the real world forever. You know, everybody thinks that, you know, when websites came out, everybody got this magical idea that, oh my God, I get a website, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be business owner. You know, and I'm like, okay, that's great. Yeah, good thought, but, you know, there's a little bit more to it than that. You can't just work on fantasy theory that's never worked in the real world. You know, that's, that's a pipe dream. So by looking at what's worked in the real world, if you look at any good salesperson, there are good salespeople out there all over the place. If you look at them, I don't care what they sell, and they don't either, because once they know how to sell, they can sell anything. And the reason is they have a process. the first thing that they'll do when they encounter a sales situation, if they're any good, they'll start asking questions. And the reason they're asking questions is so they can identify who they're talking to, so they can speak the right language. And I don't care who they are or what they're selling. If they're a successful salesperson, that's what they do, whether they know it or not. They'll ask questions. They will figure out what language you use. If you're cursing when you're telling them the answers, guess what? They're going to curse back, because they're going to create rapport with you that way. If you're prim and proper, they're going to be a chameleon, and they're going to become prim and proper when they speak to you. And their close ratios are incredible. So if you think about that, why did that work? What was it about that worked? They created a bond with the person by being like them. We like people like us. So by them getting the languaging and becoming that person, they created that invisible bond instantly. So we don't have that luxury online, because we're not interacting one-on-one. We're interacting with a mass. So if we can segment the mass and figure out the languaging ahead of time, we know we're speaking the right language. So we're replicating what's always worked in the real world. That's how I know how this works. It's not magic. I didn't make it up. I'm just looking at, if you look at marketing and you look at, real success, real business success, a lot of it's common sense. A lot of it is being able to observe and replicate. If you can observe and understand what you're looking at, and you can replicate that, you will be successful. A lot of the big guru guys, that's what they say. They say, if you want the success of someone that, you're looking at, all you have to do is do what they do, right? But you have to interpret what they're doing. There's a lot of stuff going on that you don't see. So the more you can understand, the better you'll be at it. So, that's what NLP, I know some of you have heard of NLP, some of you have been through NLP training. NLP really, some people see it as evil or mysterious or anything. It's really just languaging. NLP is figuring out languaging. It's figuring out how to replicate a pattern to get a result. And that's what good salespeople do. That stuff's been around for hundreds of years. It's just recently got names put to it and labels. But that's what it's all about. If you want to figure out how to train a sales team, you watch the best salesperson and you figure out what he's doing, and you teach the others what he's doing. Not how he's doing it, or, you teach them what and why, so they can understand it. So I'll give you a really good example, and this was an absolutely brilliant way to take something that worked in the real world and do it online. And it's the example of the car salesman. When you go onto a car lot, what does the salesman want to do? He wants to get you behind the wheel. He wants you to feel it. He wants you to actively participate in the process. That's the way he creates demand and desire. You're going to want the car. You want the car by looking at it, but once you sit behind the wheel and you actually drive the car, you have this visual image now, what that car looks like in your driveway and what you look like getting in it and what your neighbors think of you. And if he can't get you behind the wheel, he can't get that to happen. And that's what they want. They want to sidestep all your questions. They want to get you behind the wheel. They want to get you in a test drive, right? Have you ever done that? You're about a car lot, and that's what they do. There's a reason that they do that. It creates that demand and desire. You start piecing it together in your head of how am I going to get this car home now, right? Well, how do you do that online? How do you do that in your marketing funnel? How do you put somebody behind the wheel? I've created a formula for it. It's the three-dimensionalizing of the benefit. If you see that in the training, that's where I talk about three-dimensionalizing a benefit. when you talk about the benefit, you know, most people, let me explain what a benefit is first of all. There's benefits and there's what's the other one? There's features and benefits. And most people talk about the features and they think that's the benefit. The feature is just what it is. You know, a lot of people talk about what it is and nobody cares what it is. What they care about is what it does. That's the benefit. So when you're explaining your product or explaining your service, go light on the features and heavy on the benefits. Again, feature is what it is, benefit is what it does. You know, the transformation, when somebody buys, let's say they buy a diet pill, nobody wants a pill. They don't buy a pill. They're buying an outcome. They're buying losing weight easily. You know, they want the benefit. The benefit is what they will buy. They won't buy the thing. Nobody wants the thing. Like for me with SEO, I've sold SEO for 20 years. Nobody wants SEO. You know, if I went in trying to sell SEO, I would probably be broke today because nobody wants it. I'd never be able to sell something nobody wants. What they want is they want the outcome. They want the benefit. So you got to sell the benefits. Now, back to the benefit. When you're describing your benefits, the way to put them behind the wheel is to three-dimensionalize it. And when I say three-dimensionalize, I say you explain the benefit 3 times in 3 ways. And you say it first so they can hear it. That's the functional benefit. So, like, I'll use the diet pill because I just threw it out there. Let's say we've identified a market. We'll go back to the beginning here, and I'll take the example all the way through so you can see it in action. Let's say we've identified a profitable market of women that are in the age group that they're getting ready for their 20-year high school reunion. You know, most of them put on a couple extra pounds and they want to look good for the high school reunion. So I have identified a very profitable market. I've identified a real demand, a real need, a real want for transformation. So we're going to sell them a diet pill and we're going to three-dimensionalize the benefit here. So first, functional benefit, so you can hear it, is take the pill and lose the weight, right? That's the way most people do their benefits, functionally. Next, we're going to add another layer to it. We want them to see it. So the three-dimensional is hear it, see it, feel it. The feel it's where they're behind the wheel. So to get them to see it, this is an NLP technique. You want to bring up an image. We all see things in pictures. Even a blind person sees things in pictures, even if they've never seen in their life. They create pictures so they can visually identify things in their mind. Otherwise, they couldn't function. They would be absolutely incoherent. If a blind person could not see pictures in their mind, they would be absolutely unusable. They couldn't even speak. So we all do this. We all create visual images in our mind. Like, you all look at me right now and you know what I look like. If you close your eyes, you can still see me, right? I'm still here. You can see me just as though your eyes were open. So everything you've ever seen from the day you were born, some people say it goes back into the womb, but there's a picture logged in there and you can access it. You can access it through NLP with words. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring up an image for the woman. I'm going to say, remember when you looked in the mirror, when you were 20 pounds lighter, remember how good you looked when you looked in the mirror? And I'm going to bring up that picture. She knows what she looked like when she was 20 pounds lighter. She saw herself in the mirror. That image is there, and I just brought it back up, full life. So that's the visual part. That's the see it. So now you hear it, see it. And now she can actually see herself. She can see what she wants. And then I'm going to take her into the feel it part. Now in the see it part, the piece that was important about that, the NLP tactic there was the word remember. I accessed part of her memory bank with the word remember. I said, remember how good you looked when you looked in the mirror when you were 20 pounds lighter? That's the key there, is to activate that memory. Pull up that picture. And now I want to put them behind the wheel. So here we go. I say imagine, and that's the key word here. I'm transporting them into the future with the word imagine. I'm activating their imagination. And I'm saying, imagine how you're going to feel when you walk into the room and all the heads turn and everybody starts talking about how good you look. I just got her to actually feel like being behind the wheel. And I did it with 3 sentences. So that's a pretty damn good formula right there. So, you know, if you want to sell stuff and you want to get people to actually get behind the wheel, that's how you do it. So, Melinda, you wanted to say something there?
I said that's pure genius.
Yep, that's what it's all about.
3 sentences.
Yep, 3 sentences.
After you've listened, right?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the way you do it. Now think about it. You could never do that if you didn't have the analysis under you. You could never get your messaging that right on if you didn't figure out the market segment. Weight loss is a massive market segment, right? But the segment of the woman that's going to her 20-year class reunion, that's a profitable segment. That's what I'm talking about. That's how you get an avatar. She is a representation of your ideal client from that little tiny segment, and we can speak her language. So it's understanding, you know, understanding where they are, how they feel, what they want, what they're hearing, you know, if you can walk a mile in their shoes, you know how to talk to them. And then when you create your marketing campaign, you know, people think that copywriting is magic. Copywriting is not magic. Copywriting is not even good English. You know, you can forget what you learned in school about English. Copywriting is about a conversation. It's about touching their emotion. What I tell people is pretend like you met somebody at a lot of you don't go to bars, but pretend like you were at a bar, like Cheers. Remember the movie or the TV show Cheers? You know, it's bar conversation. It's friends. It's a friend talking to a friend about problem solution. That's the way your marketing conversation should go. If you do it like that, English doesn't matter. What matters is their language. Every one of us has a different language. And if you can figure out the segment and the language of the segment you're talking to, then writing the copy becomes very easy. You know, like I said, if you're talking to people that are heavy on cuss words, if you're not cussing in the language, if you're not cussing in the copy, they're not going to bond with you. They're going to think you're an outsider. They're going to think this guy's not like me. And who wants to work with somebody that's not like them? So it's really, really important. And you know, I took you guys on a massive loop off of where we started, but back to, I almost forgot where we started and where I was going with it. But coming back around, I was talking about lifetime value, and that was a massive detour, but I think it was well worthwhile. But back to the lifetime value, this is really, really key importance here, is understanding what your customer is worth. And here, now it just dawned on me why I took you on that journey, was to show you that when you start and you deliver what you've got, you've transformed them on the timeline. So they're no longer on the beginning of the timeline. Now they're on the end of the timeline. They've got what they want. The transformation has happened. But guess what? Now they have a new timeline. They have a new problem, and that's where your second product comes into play. And it doesn't even have to be yours. This is where affiliate marketing can make you an absolute fortune. You don't have to create the products. You just have to find them. You have to understand the customer journey. When you take them to the end of the timeline, the new timeline begins, What do they need next? And then just be there to provide it for them. You've already created the friendship. When somebody buys from you once, they'll buy from you forever, as long as you don't steer them wrong. As long as you give them good value and you're there for them, you're their advocate, you're basically there fighting on their behalf. You're their advocate. They're going to trust you. You did them right the first time. Why would you steer them wrong the second time? That's what I'm talking about, lifetime value. And I use this as an example. This was a long time ago. I had a customer that she made maternity dresses. And when she came to me, I was just getting started in my career. And I'm like, oh my God, I am screwed here, because there's not enough profit in the dress for us to buy the traffic to make this woman any money. I'm like, I can't perform a miracle. So I really racked my brain about it, and I came up with this idea, and I went back to her with this idea I said, we don't have to make money on the dress. And she was really puzzled, and she was like really wondering if I was the right person for her at that point in time. But I said, no, stay with me here for a minute. I said, the dress is a lead generator for you for an 18-year funnel. You're going to know what this woman is going to need for the next 18 years. And as long as you know what it is before she does, and you bring her the solution to her problem, you have an 18-year customer ladder. How much money could you make? If you're only making 10% of everything she buys for the next 18 years, how much money could you make? What's the lifetime value of the customer? It was like $10,000. That customer was worth $10,000 to her. So could we afford to lose $20 on the dress to acquire the customer? Would you put in $20 in an investment that over the next 18 years was going to pay you $10,000? Yeah, I think we'd do that a couple times a second, maybe. As often as the opportunity arose, we'd find a $20 bill to buy that customer. So that's what I'm talking about with the lifetime value of your customer. Your customers, I don't care who you are or what you sell, your customer, when you sell them what you're selling them, it's going to create a new timeline. All you have to do, this is a thinking game. All you have to do is think, what is that? What's the next step? And you don't have to even provide the products. You just have to find other people that provide the products and make the introductions. And you can make affiliate commissions. That's free money. That's what they call mailbox money. Think about it. If you could acquire customers in your funnel, and you had a lifetime funnel that just took them through the process, and money just arrived in the future for you not really doing anything other than creating an automated funnel to walk them through. You can create a funnel out 18 years. We did it. We've mapped out 18 years of what that woman was going to need. We found people that provided the things. That became her job. Her job was no longer making dresses. She outsourced and bought the dresses. Her job became finding the vendors for every step of the next 18 years and creating those deals and setting up those affiliate relationships and just plugging those into the funnel. It was that was a transforming, life-changing thing for me when I came to that realization of, oh my God, these customers are worth a fortune. We don't have to make money on the first sale. And if you look at Agora Publishing, they just broached $1 billion a year in online sales. They sell digital products. They sell basically information products. It's like a newsletter. And they sell it in 3 categories. They sell it in health, finance, and what's called, I don't know the exact name of it, but I call them preppers, like people that think the end of the world is coming. And that's their 3 categories. They will spend up to 6 months. They will go in debt for 6 months to acquire a customer. Like they make like $20 a month on each customer. So if you take $20, which they would make, and you multiply that by 6, that's $120. They will spend $120 to make a $20 sale. The $20 sale is recurring. They make 20 bucks a month, but they know that after 6 months, that customer is now profitable every month thereafter. And they also know what the customer is going to need next. They have a whole lifetime value ladder of other offers that they know because they've segmented those audiences so well. They've segmented them down. They have literally thousands of funnels for those 3 markets because they've figured out all the little micro segments, all the different languages, and they've created a funnel for each and every one of them. And they know their numbers, and they know they can spend 120 bucks. Actually, they could spend a lot more than that, but that's kind of their target goal number for their ad campaigns. So think about that. If you're playing this game and you're going up against a competitor that knows his numbers and he's willing to spend more than the customer's worth on the first sale, and you're not, guess who's going to win? I mean, think about that. You guys see all these marketing gurus that are making millions of dollars, and you don't really understand how they're doing it. They know their numbers. That's how they're able to do that. That's why you try it, you lose money, you don't get it, and you stop. You know, there's a couple of things with that. You haven't figured out your conversion. You haven't segmented your markets. You're not speaking the right language, so you're bleeding money everywhere. And you don't know your numbers. You haven't figured out your long-term value ladder for your clients of what you sell them next and next and next and next. It's like, you know, my Dominator membership, it's 29 bucks a month. I don't make a fortune off of that. But if you look at all the stuff in my resource guide, that's all the stuff I know you guys are going to need at some point in time. And I make money off of you guys for a long time because I provide a massive amount of value. I know what you're going to need. I know when you're going to need it. I can save you a tremendous amount of money by telling you when to buy what. You know, instead of you just buying everything and trying to figure it out yourself. That's like, you know, some of the feedback over the years I've got from my members is they've got so much value from just that I tell them what to buy and when to buy it, that they say they'll stay with me forever just because of that. Because it saves them not only time, but, you know, or not only money, but time, you know, going through stuff. Like Kartra, you know, any of you guys that are not using Kartra, you are bleeding money. You're bleeding time and effort. Kartra, you know, when I found that, I just about, if I could do a backflip, I would have done it. And I damn sure would have videotaped it too. Because, you know, before that, the best thing out there was ClickFunnels. And it was an absolute piece of crap. I couldn't even do it myself. I had to hire out every time I wanted something done with it, because you had to patch everything together. You had, you know, you had to know all how everything worked and how it all tied together, and it was just an absolute nightmare. So when Kartra came out, I'm like, oh yeah, now we got something to work with. So, you know, that's it. Just figure out, you know, your people, your following, what do they need? Be there for them. Provide value, and they'll be with you forever. And you'll make a fortune in the long run. You know, I've got people, this group that you guys are in has been running since 2008. There's people in here from the very beginning. You know, they're not on the calls. They come on the call maybe, you know, once a quarter. You know, they come on once a quarter just to kind of get up to date, or if they've got a problem or question or whatever. But to have access to everything that I give them, and just me being here for them for 30 bucks a month, it's ridiculous for them to go away. So anyway, let's see. Jim wants to know if Kartra has proven message scripts or models. they do actually have the ability to create and share templates now. And in the templates that actually come with Kartra, I think you get 5 or 7 that are the actual Frank Kern templates. And it has his copy in them. So it's like done for you, end-to-end templates. I've created, I think, 3 at this point, and you can share the templates now. So like any of the templates that I've made, anybody that signs up, through my Kartra link, I give them to you. Like I have a membership template, I've got a lead generation template, I've got a membership site template. The membership site template, a lot of people were asking for, and I had already created one myself that I was using, and I absolutely love it. I used the A-Member software for years. Since 2008, I've used A-Member, and I swore up and down I would never leave it because it was so awesome. Well, I left it for Kartra. Kartra does everything I need to do right in there, and I don't have to patch anything together. It's really, really cool. It does your affiliate program. It does your calendar, your scheduling, everything, all in one package. So pretty awesome stuff. All right, let's see. Did I get everybody's questions answered? Was there anything? I know some of these came up in the chat. I didn't see them. Let's see. I think I got everybody answered up here. A couple people have said they didn't see the Gen M link, so I may not have put it in there. I'll do that right after we finish the call. So if you go into the members area, under the resource tab, I'll make sure that that's in there for you. I'll get that dialed in. Anything else? Anything your problems you're up against, or?
John, I want to go back to that question about how I begin to segment. So I kind of feel like LinkedIn is where that's the audience that I have been communicating with, delivering product to for 15 years or so, but I haven't actively used LinkedIn. Do you have any recommendations on how do I identify? I have one of those universal issues. I've got conflict. So yeah, I mean, everybody's got conflict, but so I'm offering conflict resolution.
Okay.
So I'm catching what you're saying about the pain points and really, but I'm kind of unsure. I've been talking with some people at a conference I was at over the weekend, and they were talking about the same thing you just said, segmenting, really identifying, but what industry seems to have an issue in a particular facet of conflict that you can address? What industry seems to have a lot of conflict?
Well, that's what you want to do, because conflict, that's your niche.
Right.
And that's a massive niche, because any business on the planet probably has conflict, right? So you're going to need to kind of, and a lot of this is common sense. There's not like a tool that you can find that's going to give you your segmentation.
Okay.
A lot of it's common sense, and a lot of it you probably know intuitively. It's just a matter of thinking about it in a logical fashion of, what are the segments that are common. Basically, you're segmenting. You're trying to categorize. Think of it as buckets. Like you want to separate the main buckets first, and then you want to look at each bucket and say, how could I segment this bucket?
Okay.
Like in the realtors, buyer, seller, those are 2 main buckets. And then we look at the buyer bucket. And okay, what are the segments of the buyers? Single mom, growing family, bachelor.
Right.
And then you want to look at the buckets there. Like, let's look at the bachelor bucket. Can we segment the bachelor bucket? It's pretty close. We might be able to just stick with that. If we look at the growing family, there might be a segment of moving to the city, moving to the country. So there's a clear segment there. Okay. And the closer you can get your segmentation, the easier it will be to create your messaging. Because when you're speaking their language specifically, that's where they're going to bond with you. So in yours, you know, I don't really know, you're going to know a lot better than I would of what those segments look like. What are your buckets? You know, it might be industry specific, and maybe you go to the industry specifically and then say, okay, well, of these industries, what's the most profitable one? And then you take that bucket and we look at that bucket and say, okay, well, of this industry, what are the different conflicts? And maybe we segment again. And then we look at each one of those buckets and we say, okay, is there a difference or are these all the same? You're trying to look for variances, and at the end of the day, the most profitable bucket is going to be the one that has the most people in it that have the ability and the willingness to spend the money. So that's how I identify a profitable market. It has to be big enough to support your sales goals. The people in it have to have the money to be able to afford to pay for the product or the service. And they also have to have a big enough problem that they're willing to spend the money.
Right. That's the biggie. Yeah.
So, you know, it's like if we go to Los Angeles and we want to sell lobsters on Skid Row.
Yeah, no.
Certainly a big enough market, right? They certainly want the product, you know, so they have the willingness to pay us, but they don't have the ability to pay us.
Right.
You have to have all three.
Okay.
To get that math equation to work, you got to have all three of those numbers right. So, you know, when you think about this, marketing is very logical. It's not like there's no mystical magic to it. It's very logical. It's very scientific, actually, and it's very much common sense.
Yeah.
You know, if you're doing something that doesn't make sense, it probably is not going to work.
Well, and I've had, at this conference, I had someone that, you know, approached me about, well, I can do that for you. Here's a 6-month program. But I'm thinking, I can probably do this research myself.
Oh, you will do it better than anyone, I guarantee it.
That's kind of what I figured.
If you outsource this and they're not as good as what you know right now after the last hour, I can guarantee you know more than 90% of the people selling this service out there.
Yeah, gotcha.
You know, and you will be far more effective at it because you know a lot more about your market than they do.
Sure. Okay.
You just need to know the process, the steps, the logic behind it, and you will be the best person to do this, I can assure you. I know you don't want to. It's not fun. It's not.
I'd rather be out presenting.
Exactly. But, you know, for you to create freedom in a profitable business,
sure,
there's a price to freedom, right?
Right.
At some point you got to fight for the freedom, and this is it.
Sure. Yeah.
This is the fight. It's to create a marketing funnel that works and create the system, and the fight is in the front. It's not in the back.
Right.
The freedom comes in the back.
Yeah. So you said in the Dominator, in the home page, in the site, you have a lot. I ask, is there a PDF or a video that I can watch that you go through all of this, or is it in the resources there?
There, on my regular site, on my Internet Dominators site, there's a blueprint you can download.
Okay, good.
And the blueprint is the ACT process. It's laid out very mechanically from end to end, and it's so you can get a visual of what it all looks like.
That's what I need. That is exactly what I need.
And then in the actual program itself, all the trainings are laid out just like that blueprint.
Okay,
so
perfect.
You can literally go to anyone and watch the video on how that section works.
Okay.
So it took me a very long time to figure out what that process actually was, too.
I bet it did.
And I took 12 people in for a year to drag it out of me. Because I could do it myself. I could do it intuitively, but I didn't know what I was doing. I could do it, but I didn't know what it was. And I took 12 people in and I said, I will work with you guys for free for a year. if you're able to pull it out of me and document it, and that's really where the ACT program came from.
Nice.
And we really got down to the nitty gritty. And once we identified each piece, I created the formulas for it because it's absolutely replicatable. And some of them went way back in history, like the formula to overcome an objection. It came from Benjamin Franklin. You know, he used it to sell his wood-burning stove.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Which was admittedly the worst product on the market, but he outsold them like they weren't even there. He destroyed his competition like they didn't even exist because of that formula. So anyway, it's like I said, I didn't make any of this stuff up. I have just observed, documented, and put it into a format that you guys can all use.
Okay, thanks, John.
All right. Okay, well, great stuff. Thank you guys all for, for being on here. I love doing this. I love helping you guys, and I will be here I'll be here forever for you. So as long as you need me, I'm here. Don't ever be afraid to come out and ask whatever's on your mind.
I have a question after everyone's finished. It's more specific just to me, if that's okay.
Oh, sure. Yeah. They're never really specific to you. It's like whatever is for you, I guarantee you someone else could use it too. Oh, go for it.
All right, then. So going back to the explaining the benefit the 3 ways.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of substituted, what I do in for what you did for the woman that was going to her reunion.
Okay.
Until I got to the 3rd one on imagine. So I want parents to enroll their children in our summer day camp.
Okay.
And the benefit is that their child will reignite their spark for learning or ignite their spark for learning. Did I lose you? Where to go?
Okay.
And so I thought I would say, remember the first time you got excited about learning, was that, in kindergarten or something you did in 1st grade? But for them to imagine and put them in the driver's seat, I don't know what to say.
Okay. Well, I'll just stop you right there. You're 1 step off.
Okay.
Your benefit is not really your benefit.
Okay.
And what it is, it's a feature.
Okay.
The feature is the thing that it is. The benefit is the thing that it does. So what you're talking about getting excited about learning something. That's a feature.
Yes.
What's the benefit of what it did for them long term? That's the question you got to answer. So like for a kid, that could give a kid a competitive advantage. Think about what that can do, what a good education can do for a child later on in his life. It could give him a competitive advantage over the other kids. It can separate him from the herd, can get him a better job, can get him a better home, a better life.
One of the things that so they can remember that time, but I'm not sure if they had a competitive edge. What happens sometimes in education is you get excited, right, when you're little about learning, and then that gets squashed out of you at some point. So okay. I don't know if I want to take them to that point.
Okay, no. Sometimes, that's a really good point right there. It doesn't have to be them. They don't have to remember a time for themselves.
Okay.
They might remember a time when someone got a job that they wanted because they had a better education. Right? Okay. They could remember that. And imagine is imagination. It does not have to be real. Imagination is, imagine your child having the life you could have had if you had a better education. Remember all the job opportunities you didn't qualify for?
Well, these are pretty successful people.
Okay. Well, again, that's part of the languaging. That's part of the analysis process.
Yeah.
Once you understand them, this becomes a lot easier.
Okay.
I'm just spitballing here just to kind of help your creative juices flow and show you how the process works. But once you get a handle on who they are and what's important to them and differentiate the benefits from the features, Again, features what it is. And I know so many times we want to think about our features as our benefits. And it's hard. It's really hard in the beginning to distinguish. But once you train yourself to think, is that really a feature or a benefit?
Yeah.
And then you'll realize, okay, well, if that's a feature, what's the benefit?
Okay.
You know, if that's what it is, what does it do? What do I get out of it? And not just today, not when it happens, the benefit could come many years later.
Okay.
So, you know, especially for the kids, you know, that's the whole reason for education, is for a better life, right?
Yeah.
And for a parent, why that's important to a parent is a parent always wants better for their kids than they had for themselves. So that's going to be, you know, a key underlying driving factor. So when you're talking about this, that's should be part of the conversation. You know, think
Okay.
about like talking to them, you know, back to the bar, you know, sitting at a bar, just talking, you know, having a conversation about, you know, think about how much better your life would be, you know, if you had a better education. How much, you know, how much more would you have made? What
Okay.
kind of place would you have lived in? What kind of opportunities would you be able to supply for your children, and even your legacy?
Or
You know?
where you would be if you had been ahead of the game with technology,
Sure.
like in your current business or job.
Yeah, and then you can transport them into imagination and go, wouldn't you love to have that for your children? Wouldn't you
Yeah.
like to give them that opportunity that, you know, maybe you missed out, but they don't have to?
Okay.
So it's a very creative process, but it's really based on that analysis part. It's understanding who you're talking to and what's important to them. Even if they don't know, sometimes they won't know. So you will have to be smart enough to figure it out for them, so you can create the conversation, so you can transport them in their mind to that place. You know, a lot of times in educating, we have to take people from where they are to where we need them to go. You know, like in NLP, they have different things to where when you drift off, you can snap them back to like paying attention again, so they don't miss out on the learning. You know, like if you see your audience, if you're speaking from the stage and you see your audience starting to drift, one of the things that you can do that will reach into their subconscious and snap them into consciousness is, what I'm about to tell you is going to have a huge impact on your life. All of a sudden they're like, oh, what's that? I don't want to miss that. Stop the daydream, wake up. So, you know, there's all kinds of stuff like that. But it's really important to understand, you know, where they are, what they need, what's going on in their life, and why this is important to them.
Okay.
You know, and those benefits are huge. You know, it's not what it is, it's what it does. Because that's the timeline. When you look at their timeline and you see where they are, that's where all the pain is. That's where all the discomfort is. And the dream and the imagination is on the other end of where they want to be. And many times they'll never get there because there's no vehicle. They don't know how. So when you come in and you start that bar conversation and you show them how this is possible, and how it's not only possible, it's easy, and you have the vehicle to deliver it, their demand and desire for you is going to go through the roof. And at that point, the only thing that's going to stand between you and a sale when you make your offer is an objection. So if you identify the objections and you use Benjamin Franklin's way of eliminating them, that won't be a problem. So again, all very methodical, very, you know, numbers driven.
So can I ask a little bit further on that?
Okay.
The techniques that I want to explore, that's not necessarily going to be the techniques. I need to keep in mind who the decision maker is, who's going to say yay or nay,
Yes.
versus who this training is going to be for.
Exactly. Yes, I have a very good example of that. I've worked with people in the drug rehab, and a lot of times they're focused on the patient. The patient's not the person. They don't see the problem. It's grandma. Grandma
Mhm.
wants to save grandson. Grandma is the buyer. So you have to focus on her concerns, her needs, her wants, not the addict. So it's the actual buyer. It's who's paying the bill. That's your customer. That's the one you have to sell.
So in my instance, it would be all of the money that they would save because of all of the costs that are associated with conflict, safety issues because people are stress related issues, time off from work because now I'm going to the doctor because I have a backache or headaches, or healthcare coverage. Like I know that insurance companies will reduce your premiums if you can show that you have a significant decrease in use of the policy itself. So if my decision maker is going to be a CFO or someone along those lines, even a human resources person, I need to focus on the bottom line, the money part.
You need to focus on wherever the pain point is. What's the pain point for what you're going to solve a problem or an issue, and then there's going to be benefits on the other end of it. So if you focus on, if there's not a real strong pain point, then you need to create that reticular activation of that there is one. Okay. A lot of times businesses will be running along and yeah, there's a massive problem, but nobody realizes it.
Okay.
So, that's a whole nother angle of attack. And it again, it's based on knowing the avatar.
So can I share one more thing with you? You just sparked a conversation that I had this weekend. The guy asked me about what I did, and he is a company co-owner. And he said, oh yeah, we've got this guy, and it's a research kind of thing. He's like, we've got this guy, and he is so difficult to get along with. He wants to run everything. He won't listen to anybody. And I said, well, it sounds like you need a little bit of conflict resolution there. And he said, oh no, it's the team gets along real good. It's just this one guy. And I'm like,
well, what you're talking about right there is my same problem with SEO. Nobody wants SEO. They probably don't want conflict resolution either. So
okay.
You've got to figure out how to figure out in their mind what their problem is, and then package yourself as the solution for that problem.
I got to make it sexy for them.
Exactly. And to do that, you have to figure out what's a problem for them. What's their pain? Back to that timeline. Where are they? What are they feeling? What are they going through? Walk in their shoes, and then you'll be able to have the bar conversation with them.
Yeah. Tammy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hijack your conversation.
I was good. Thanks.
So you get that, right? It's all back to that analysis of figuring out who they are, what's their language, what's their problem, timeline, where do they want to be? That's going to show you the hurdle of the problem that's ahead of them. And if your product or service can eliminate that and transform them over that hurdle to get them to the end of the timeline, that becomes very valuable.
That sounds so easy. Oh, we'll just figure it out. But
you're right. It does sound very easy.
For me, when you start breaking it down into that conversation piece, it's a bit more challenging.
It's actually once you really get into the analysis and you do the exercises and you run through it and you've got it straight in your head, it really will be a lot easier.
Okay, and that's in the blueprint?
Yeah, that's in the blueprint. That's in all the little steps of the training.
Okay.
And I happen to be, over the years, really good at this. And that's why I'm happy to help you guys on the calls. So, if you bring your pieces to me on here, I'm happy to help, and everybody learns of how to do it.
Okay, thanks.
So, All right, guys. Well, anything else before we wrap up?
Tammy, let's bring our pieces next week.
Happy Independence Day, everyone.
Yeah, you guys too. This is like
Thank
Christmas time for me. I love fireworks because that just spells freedom for me. All right, guys. Well, have a great week and have a great 4th of July tomorrow and stay safe. And we'll be back on next week. So get your questions and let's do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.